London, by an act of Parliament, the singular pronoun he was finally legally crowned. By the way, I'm going to be going like this a lot because I just cannot endlessly say quote unquote. In all acts, the act pronounced, words importing the masculine gender shall be deemed and taken to include females. The law was introduced for the shortening of the language used in acts of Parliament and was intended to relieve some of the burden of verbosity demanded by legal precision. Of particular weight, apparently, was the need to write he or she when referring to individuals of unknown gender. Perhaps, too, having to intone he or she, often repetitively, when reading such acts aloud, was felt to impede member eloquence. For what Politico would want to invite bruises to both vanity and persuasion? Thus, for motives practical and egotistic, and for patriarchal ones too, she was voted off the island. Experience will tell us the use of they, their, and them to refer to those of unknown gender has always been a common feature of English, even when spoken aloud. This is exactly why, Bodine explains, 2 centuries of attempts to teach and legislate it away has largely failed, except perhaps in the red-lined realms of English comp. Who has not inadvertently dropped a there into murky pronominal waters? Only the grammar nerds amongst us use such occasions for flagrant self-correction, but they needn't flagellate themselves. They had simply drifted into the stream of common usage, a centuries-old stream sprung from a generous source. When in doubt, include. That seems to be the rather heartening intuition of English speakers when faced linguistically with gender indeterminacy. Posed against the stubborn and violent nature of they's common usage, the prescription against it begins to seem the wet dream of sadistic linguists. Later authors, Bodine tells us, expanded their sections on the false syntax of singular they to several pages. I mean, you can just imagine them in a rage, writing all of these examples of, this is wrong! From the 18th century on, it would seem that fathers, professorial and political, wanted neither the singular feminine nor the gender-ambiguous plural to be the default name/essence of English-speaking people. When in doubt, exclude seems to have been their mantra. 20th century feminism has done a very thorough job of calling our attention to the whys and hows of the exclusion of she. Indeed, Bodine's 1975 article is a pioneering piece of feminist linguistics. But, especially with Waite's poems as context, it was the prohibition against they that I found so fascinating. And here's where my own idiosyncratic weirdness comes forward, because you may not buy it all what I'm about to talk about, but I'm sorry, I'm me. Perhaps the common use of singular they suggested that the language, and hence the mind, had a kind of intuition, that self is multiple. This isn't a new idea. The sense of the plural self is ancient. It fills annals of philosophical, psychological, and occult thought. Jung's theory of types and postmodernism's focus on the socially constructed self are but 2 20th century examples. It would seem, for Cannon and Lake's speaker at least, that the desire is for a single aligned self. Embodiment, apparently, is meant to be a singular, if permeable, affair. The single body, the norm of physical individuality, creates our linguistic norms where pronouns are concerned, however inadequate they may be to expressing what Buber terms the real being. Perhaps this is why my experiment in using singular they when referring to weight in conversation so utterly failed as natural speech. Singular they sounds quite natural and easy to the ear in cases of the ungendered general. But once you have a specific person to whom to refer, it feels very strange to refer to that individual as they. It also feels very strange to refer to them as me, thon, he, li, ip, si, z, or numerous other proffered remedies to the wound of the missing word.